Hotel California. Judges in tears and hit golden buzzer. The lights of the auditorium felt blinding, but to 12-year-old Ethan, they were nothing compared to the shadows he had lived in for as long as he could remember. He stood center stage, clutching a microphone that felt far too big for his small hands. His sneakers, scuffed from years of second-hand wear, tapped nervously against the wooden floor. The crowd murmured with polite curiosity, another contestant, another song. Nobody knew yet that the boy standing before them had no family, no home to return to, only a dream and a voice he barely believed belonged to him. Ethan had grown up in a small orphanage in the outskirts of Chicago. The other kids had parents who visited occasionally, brought them toys, promised they'd be home soon. Ethan never had those visits. The only thing left from his past was a crumpled photograph of a man with a guitar, his father. He didn't remember his voice, but he remembered the music. Every night, before the orphanage lights went out, Ethan would hum the old songs his father once sang to him. It was his way of keeping a piece of family alive. One day, a volunteer at the orphanage overheard him singing. She was stunned by the emotion in his voice, raw, unpolished, but haunting. "You need to share this with the world," she told him, her eyes bright with conviction. She helped him apply for the city's biggest televised talent show, even though Ethan didn't believe for a second he would be chosen. But 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. He was in. Now, standing under the hot lights, Ethan faced 3 celebrity judges whose faces he'd only ever seen on TV. The host gave him an encouraging smile. "What are you going to sing for us today?" "Hotel California," Ethan said softly, his voice cracking. A few eyebrows in the audience rose. It was a big song for such a young boy, a classic everyone knew but few could truly deliver. The music began, slow and steady. Ethan closed his eyes, letting the guitar intro wash over him. In his mind, he was back in that tiny bedroom with peeling wallpaper, his father's silhouette framed in the window light, strumming those same chords. The first notes left his lips shaky, but then something shifted. His voice grew stronger, richer, carrying decades of longing in a 12-year-old's tone. The audience fell silent. Even the judges leaned forward, their pens forgotten. Ethan wasn't just singing, he was telling a story. Every word was heavy with a truth they could all feel, loss, love, and the ache of memories that won't let go. By the time he reached the chorus, the entire auditorium seemed to be holding its breath. And then came the bridge, his voice soared, unexpectedly powerful, with a rawness that cut straight to the heart. He wasn't performing, he was living the song. Tears welled up in the eyes of strangers who had walked in expecting just another audition. One of the judges, a stern-faced music producer known for his harsh critiques, wiped at his eyes. It was the smallest of gestures, but the cameras caught it. The second judge, a Grammy-winning singer, covered her mouth in disbelief. And the third judge, a man who'd made his career discovering young talent, was gripping the golden buzzer. As Ethan sang the final line, his voice trembled but never broke. The last note hung in the air like a prayer. The room exploded in applause, but the boy just stood there, blinking as if unsure what had just happened. Then, bang, the golden buzzer slammed down. Confetti rained from above, swirling around him in gold and silver. Ethan's mouth fell open. He had seen it on TV before, but never thought it would happen to him. The judges were on their feet. The audience roared. The host rushed over, kneeling beside him. "Ethan, you just got the golden buzzer. How do you feel?" For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. His chest heaved with unsteady breaths. I wish my dad could see this," he finally whispered, his voice breaking. The stern-faced judge leaned toward the microphone. "Ethan, he just did. Because when you sang, we all saw him. You made us feel him. And that's a gift, son. That's something no one can ever take away from you." Backstage, while the cameras flashed and interviews swirled, the volunteer who had signed him up wrapped him in a hug. "You did it," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You showed them who you are." Ethan shook his head. "I showed them who my dad was." The episode aired a week later, and within hours, Ethan's performance had gone viral. Messages poured in from around the world, people telling him how his voice reminded them of someone they had lost, how it made them cry, how it gave them hope. A music label offered to mentor him. A charity for orphan children reached out, offering scholarships and a safe place to live. But the most unexpected message came from a man in Arizona. He had been watching TV with his wife when Ethan appeared on the screen. In the boy's face, he saw someone he thought he'd never see again, his younger brother's child. Ethan's uncle. Within weeks, they met in person. For the first time in years, Ethan wasn't just the orphan boy who could sing. He was family again. Months later, standing on the grand finale stage, Ethan looked out at the cheering crowd and thought about the journey from a small, forgotten orphanage to this moment. He didn't win first place that night, but it didn't matter. Because the real victory was knowing that his voice, born from loneliness, had reached hearts across the world. It had found him a home. And it had reminded everyone listening that even in the darkest places, music, and love, can find a way to shine. Somewhere, in the quiet corners of his heart, Ethan could almost hear his father's guitar, playing him home.